One's perfection, many voices from different cultures, backgrounds, and experiences echo a shared struggle. We are kind to others, but too harsh on ourselves. From classroom to workplaces, from homes to digital spaces, one universal question arises: how do we learn to forgive ourselves and practice self compassion? Today, we enter a global dialogue where understanding begins not outside but within the human heart. Let's begin the dialogue with Maya, Sesame.
Hiya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just feeling that Sunday evening energy. How's your weekend been?
Wonderful. It's wonderful. The global dialogue discussion is about the journey within learning self compassion and self forgiveness.
That sounds like a powerful place to start,
Hmm.
especially for someone who holds themselves to such a high standard. What's the core message you want people to walk away with?
I think we should know these two terms about how to practice self compassion and self forgiveness.
Totally. We can't really apply them if we don't know what they actually feel like in practice. For me, self compassion is like being your own best friend instead of your own toughest critic. And self forgiveness is the act of letting go of that heavy luggage of guilt or regret so you can actually move forward. Does that land with you?
Yeah, if you please simplify it, what is self compassion?
Think of it as giving yourself the same kindness you give a friend who just messed up. Instead of beating yourself up, you just acknowledge that it's okay to be human and a bit messy sometimes.
Okay, great.
Now,
So,
how about self?
self compassion means treating yourself with kindness during failure or pain instead of harsh criticism.
Exactly. You've got the essence of it. It's that shift from I can't believe I did this to I'm having a hard time right now and that's okay.
And sometimes one says, if if someone fails an exam, instead of saying I'm useless, you say I didn't perform well this time, but I can improve.
Spot on. That's the perfect example. It's
Great,
separating your worth from your performance. You're not
great,
a failure, you just had a failing moment.
wonderful.
Huge difference.
Why is self-compassion important in daily life?
Because it keeps you from burning out. When you're constantly auditing your own mistakes with a magnifying glass, you just exhaust yourself. Being
Hmm.
kind to yourself actually gives you the mental room to actually learn from the mistake and try again rather than just spiraling into shame.
Okay, great. So it helps reduce stress, anxiety, and emotional pressure, isn't it?
Absolutely. It takes the edge off that internal pressure. When you
Great.
stop fighting yourself, you suddenly have a lot more energy for everything else.
How can I stop being too self-critical?
Start by noticing the voice in your head.
Hmm.
When that inner critic starts yelling, try to pause and ask, would I ever say this to someone I actually like?
Oh,
Usually the answer is hard no, which makes it a lot easier to realize how unfair you're being to yourself.
wonderful. Excellent.
I just meant that we're usually way meaner to ourselves than we are to anyone else. It's like we have a separate set of rules for ourselves that are 10 times harsher. Does that sound familiar?
Wonderful. Yes, of course. What is self-forgiveness?
If self-compassion is the how you treat yourself during the struggle,
Mhm.
self-forgiveness is what happens after. It's the conscious decision to stop punishing yourself for something you did in the past. It's essentially deciding that you've paid the fine and it's time to let the debt go.
Hmm, great. So self
It's like
forgiveness
finally,
is a letting go of guilt after realizing and correcting your mistakes.
exactly. It's that
Okay.
moment where you stop looking in the rearview mirror
Hmm,
and start focusing on the road ahead.
great.
You can't change the past. It's a bit of
Hmm,
a relief, isn't it?
yeah,
Once
of
you
course.
let that
Yeah.
really is. Since you're doing this for a global dialogue, do you think people struggle more with the compassion part or the forgiveness part?
Yeah, of course it is. They do actually about compassion, self compassion.
Hmm.
How do mistakes
That
help
makes
in
sense.
self growth? Sorry to cut you.
They're basically the roadmap for what needs to change. If everything went perfectly the first time, we'd
Mm,
never actually discover where our blind spots are. Mistakes force us to stop, analyze, and actually grow instead of just coasting on what we already know.
wonderful.
Wait, was that a one as in firstly? Like you're starting a
Wonderful.
list of points? I might
That's
have
great.
misheard you. My bad, I'm probably just hearing things.
Okay.
Since we're talking about how do you personally feel about mistakes? Do you find it easier to learn from them, or do you tend to be hard on yourself first?
No. I find it easier because I'm a person who is a you know who knows how to be what do you say, to forgive yourself and to learn from mistakes and to consider mistakes like stepping stones towards success.
That's a great mindset to have. It really changes the whole game when you see a mistake as a lesson rather than a dead end. Not many people get to that point of clarity.
Yeah. How can mindfulness help self compassion?
Mindfulness is basically the alarm system that lets you know when you're being too hard on yourself. It's that moment where you catch yourself mid thought, like, oh, wait, I'm doing that thing again where I call myself an idiot for dropping a glass. Instead of just riding the wave of self criticism, you notice it, acknowledge it, and then choose to be kinder. It's the
Great.
gap between the feeling and the reaction.
Right. What role does self acceptance play?
It's the foundation for everything we've talked about.
Hmm.
Without accepting who you are, flaws, quirks, and all, you're
Hmm.
just trying to build a house on sand.
Great.
Can't really forgive or be compassionate toward a version of yourself that you're still trying to hide or change.
Hmm.
Acceptance is just saying, this is where I am right now, and that's okay.
Great. How can
It's
I
the
forgive
starting.
myself? How can I forgive myself after hurting someone?
That's a much heavier lift. Starts with genuine accountability, not just saying, I'm sorry, but truly understanding the pain you caused.
Hmm.
Once you've done what you can to make it right, the forgiveness part is about realizing that staying in a state of permanent guilt doesn't actually help the other person. It helps you move forward so you can be a better person for others in the future.
Great. Can self
It's a tough
compassion improve mental health?
in a huge way. It
Hmm.
basically acts as a buffer against depression and anxiety. We
Hmm.
stop the cycle of self shaming, you lower your cortisol levels and stop your brain from staying in that fight or flight mode. It lets you actually heal instead of just picking at the wound.
Okay. And what is the difference between self compassion and self pity?
Self pity is like drowning in your own problems, while self compassion is like reaching out a hand to pull yourself out. With self pity, you're focused on how unfair everything is, and you feel like a victim. But self compassion is about acknowledging the pain, but doing it with kindness and a desire to heal. One keeps you
Okay.
stuck, the other helps you move.
So self compassion motivates growth, and self pity keeps you stuck in negativity. Is it?
You nailed it.
Okay.
One is a dead end and the other. It's like the difference between saying, I'm so miserable and this is really hard, but I've got this.
Mm.
One takes the power away, the other gives it back to you.
Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. How can I build a habit of self kindness?
Start small, like really small. Try creating a kindness trigger.
Mhm.
Every time you do something routine, like brushing your teeth or making coffee, take 10 seconds to acknowledge one thing you did well today, even if it's just showing up. If you do it consistently, you eventually train your brain to look for the wins instead of the gaps.
Wow. Great. Why do people struggle to forgive themselves?
Mostly because we think that guilt is some kind of punishment that keeps us from doing it again. We
Mm.
trick ourselves into believing that if we stop feeling bad, it means we don't actually care or that we're letting ourselves off the hook. In
Okay.
reality, the guilt just becomes a weight that slows us down instead of a lesson that moves us forward.
How does self compassion affect relationships?
It actually makes you a much better partner and friend. When you're
Hmm.
not constantly judging yourself, you stop projecting those judgments onto other people. You become way more patient and empathetic because you've already practiced that kindness on yourself first. It's hard to truly give someone else grace if you're not giving any to yourself.
Okay, great, great. One last
Just kind of
question.
like a rip. I'm all ears. What have you got for me?
What is the first step toward self forgiveness?
Honesty. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about what happened, with the excuses, but also without the insults. Just the facts. Once you can look at the mistake clearly, you can actually start to deal with it.
Right, okay.
It's the only way to clear the
Really,
air. Yes.
Maya, it was really a wonderful discussion about self compassion and self forgiveness and how to practice them. We, especially the viewers, must have enjoyed it. And I would like to wrap it up in a few words, and then you will give a conclusive touch to it. Okay.
I'm ready when you are. Go ahead and wrap it up. I'll be waiting to bring it all home at the end.
Okay. Dear
I'm
viewers,
listening.
across continents, cultures, and generations, humanity shares one silent truth. We all make mistakes, but not everyone learns to be kind to themselves afterward. Self compassion is not weakness, it is emotional intelligence in action. Self forgiveness is not forgetting the past, it is choosing growth over guilt. When individuals learn forgiveness, forgive, or when individuals learn to forgive themselves, societies become more understanding, resilient, and peaceful. The journey inward becomes the foundation of global harmony. In the end, the most powerful relationship you will ever build is the one with yourself. Thanks a lot, viewers, and over to you, Maya.
That was beautifully said. It really hits home that we're often our own harshest judges.
Yeah,
To wrap this all up, if there's one thing to take away, it's that being kind to yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for growth. You can't build a better version of yourself if you're constantly tearing down the current one. So
wonderful.
take a breath, let go of that one thing you've been beating yourself up for, and just start again. Thank you to everyone watching and listening. It's been a pleasure thinking through this with you.
Thanks. Thanks,
Anytime.
viewers, and see you in the next episode. Bye for now, and don't forget to subscribe.